Hello everybody, it's the Blacklister here, and Bungie just dropped the new ViDoc concerning the Black Armory and the Season of the Forge. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. Bungie will be continuing the design philosophy that they rediscovered during Forsaken. This is good, because if Activision wants to make money, keeping players coming back for more of what they love is the only way to design games. There will be new pursuits, which include titles, new pinnacle activities including the Mountaintop, the Breakneck, and the Loaded Question for Crucible, Gambit, and Vanguard activities. Several times during the ViDoc, they mention raids, not raid lairs, and they've been very careful in the past that if it is a raid lair, they mention that it is a raid lair. They do not do that here, and they explicitly state raids every single time, so good news for those of us who prefer a more fleshed out raid. There will be a slew of new weapons and armor, which will take us up to, in this expansion, 650 power. Each time you log in after the weekly reset, new things will be happening in the world. Bungie equates it to an advent calendar of opening something up each week and not knowing what's inside. This could be alluding to items in the game or quests, or it could just be events to do. There will be no new campaigns, yet there does seem to be missions that follow a storyline. I suppose internally they don't consider it to be a campaign, but I don't see much of a difference. We'll just have to wait and see. Bungie acknowledges that players don't want to enjoy just all the content up front with little to no good things down the line. They understand that we want, as they say, the feast to last, quote unquote. And that's wonderful to hear that they understand the player sentiment about not front-loading the game and leaving nothing for us to chase after later. Design director Evan Nikolic says, "We are definitely adding to the endgame." The seasons of Destiny 2 are for all players, including events like Crucible, Iron Banner, and holiday events, while the annual pass is about having a premium layer on top of that. Creative director Steve Cotton and production director Scott Taylor expressed specific desire to add new secrets to the game like they had in Forsaken, but naturally, they ain't going into detail. For all those who own Forsaken, each season will raise the power cap by 50 light, so Black Armory will bring us up to 650, Joker's Wild will be 700, and Penumbra will bring us to 750. Bungie wants to implement different activities which will allow us to pursue Endgame, which in Black Armory is its Horde mode Forges. Joker's Wild will emphasize Pinnacle Gambit activities that you can play with your friends. This is likely so they have time to polish Gambit since it's a new game mode and all. There's a lot of balancing that they need to do before it's ready to be a real competitive activity. And in Penumbra, they don't really specify what the activities will be besides, quote unquote, learning new secrets. So they are really keeping Penumbra under wraps, which makes sense since we'll likely be approaching the climax with Savathun as we enter Season of the Redacted. Evidently, it's now Ada, not Gaunt, who was the maker of the 77 Wizard, who is representing the Black Armory. But maybe Gaunt will make an appearance too? We'll just have to wait and see. It'll be our job as Guardians to get into her good graces by finding the lost forges and clearing them out, which will be made mountains easier with the introduction of matchmaking for forge activities. Bungie heard us. Finally. There are three main families who founded the Black Armory, and each has an influence on the aesthetics and, speculation, perks of the weapons. These being Norse, Japanese, and French. The LMG archetype reintroduced with the Thunderlord will be filled out with new legendary variations when Black Armory comes around. There will be new weapon mods, some of which modify only specific perks on the weapon, like increased Firefly explosion effect. How these mods will work on weapons that do not have the corresponding perks is yet to be seen, but more mods cannot be a bad thing. There are new options in Column, which allow better weapon perk variation and customization, which is awesome because more weapon customization is also never a bad thing. As I said before, there will be a new raid, not raid lair, and it's based inside the city, which is designed to evoke the Wrath of the Machine-esque combat. This includes new fallen enemies that appear to be much like the Devil Splicers, except that it appears they have more fully mastered body augmentation than their earlier renditions. There are no mention of exotic armors, though we can safely assume that there will be some for each class. But Bungie does confirm 5 new exotic weapons coming in the Black Armory expansion. Those are Izanagi's Burden, which is the sniper rifle that we've seen on pretty much every single bit of promotional material. It has a reload mechanic which allows you to smash 4 bullets into one shot, and it can one-shot body shot an enemy guardian with an overshield. This puts it in great competition with Whisper of the Worm and Sleeper Simulant, which is wonderful because the more options you have in combat, the less stagnant PvP becomes. There's a new exotic bow coming from the French foundry. It doesn't have a name yet, but they do say that it feels very thorny, and it does appear to release a wave of void damage over time on headshot kills. So maybe that's what they're referring to as far as the damage over time and it feeling thorny. Jotun, which is a charge-fired homing rocket launcher, which leaves fire wherever it hits. It's technically a grenade launcher, but it fires like a fusion rifle, locks on like a rocket launcher, and leaves napalm on the ground wherever it hits. Oh, and it tracks. Did I mention that it tracks? Because it tracks. Why would you ever want to use a different gun? This is like the greatest gun ever. There's a Fallen aesthetic grenade launcher with arc tethers. You fire shots at either targets or on the geometry around you. Each individual shot will then stay for a period of time and tether to other shots, which will then create a weave of arc energy around the place, which enemies that step into will be vaporized. If you've played Warframe, think of Valbon, and you're not too far from the mark. And lastly, Last Word. There's no information on what perks the Last Word will have, or how those perks might have been changed with its port into Destiny 2. All in all, it's looking to be an exciting time in the next few weeks, and I'll be keeping you all up to date as I can. Thank you for watching, and if you found the video informative, be sure to give it a thumbs up.
Subscribe to channel, yes, or die.
It's about the unexpected. It's got vehicles, it's different in a very refreshing way.
It's a throwback to Wrath of the Machine style combat. It's much more focused on high action, high adrenaline.
Keep the throttle pegged. That would be my advice.
We really don't want to be a box product that you think of as being on a disc. We want to be a world that evolves and changes over time.
Anytime you try something new, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be scary, but we got to forge ahead. Like, the world's changing, games are changing, it's time to set a new course.
Yeah.
We don't want to play it safe. We want to take risks, and we want to have this annual pass explore some of these areas that we haven't done before. We think that started with Forsaken, and we liked what we did, and we want more of it.